Wow, stories.
I've been paying all costs of living and fun money for both of us for the past 4 years, while she was trying to find a job, then start her business, and now is trying to publish a book. Yesterday, she asked me if I would be sad if she traveled back to her home state for 2 weeks since she hasn't been there ever since we moved in together due to financial reasons. It hurt me so much that she didn't talk about our plans to save money for the wedding or our plans to travel together. She literally started the conversation asking if I would be sad if she traveled by herself. She has no money except for a monthly budget I give her, $300, so technically, I'd still be paying for everything. Full story. I have been taking care of Linda, my fiancé, financially for the past 4 years, but together for 5. And I'm starting to consider that she's taking it very easy in finding work or making her own business work. During the infection 19 lockdowns, she got depressed as we just moved states for my work, and we didn't know anybody here, which caused her to focus on her mental health while also sorting out some paperwork that would prevent her from working. The paperwork came in after 6 long months, during which I paid for everything since she had no income and no savings. The first few months after getting those papers, she didn't seem to have any luck in finding a job, but later I found out that it was mostly due to being depressed and her giving up without communicating. I started paying for her therapy to support her, while still paying for all living costs and going on a trip every once in a while, which I was happy to do since you're supposed to support your partner, right? Unfortunately, she didn't have any luck in finding a job, so she took it upon herself to start her own service business. The first thing she did is to get some courses, again, paid by me, related to her business, and then some materials, products, item paid by me, in order to find and work for customers. Meanwhile, we were going to couples therapy. Different cultural upbringing causes quite some friction in small stuff. And there, I also mentioned that I felt taken advantage of since she's always working on her business, but that it was either scrolling through Instagram, her method of marketing, or finding a new course to do, because she didn't feel ready yet to start taking on customers. Every time I tried to get either a date or goal she set for herself, it was vague and non-committal, so I tried to be understanding and push her to aim for 5 customers by the end of the year. So in roughly 6 months' time passed and went and no customers, except for a single friend who wanted to help out and, in the end, paid $200 for a consultancy. After a year, this business idea fizzled out, and she got depressed again. A few months later, she started to write her own book, in the hopes of self-publishing, which also didn't work out. Same story, writing for roughly a year and never finishing. She told me writing her very first book was hard and difficult, and she started to hate the story. She started writing a new book, and this one is like 80–90% finished. But somehow she keeps on rewriting existing parts, and doesn't seem to be able to actually finish the story so she can start selling it. After being together for almost 5 years, she still hasn't contributed anything financially to the household or our trips. Our last fight was, as always, about money, because I feel the pressure of having to provide and make sure we can pay our bills, groceries, and have enough left for a night out once a month. On the other hand, she has a spending problem. So a few months ago, I got tired of her spending money from our shared account for random stuff and told her to quit it and stop using our shared bank account for personal things. I give her a monthly budget of $300 to spend on herself. Takeout, nails, clothes. Usually this money is gone in the first 2 weeks, after which she has nothing left, so she can't go out, etc. Now to the straw that broke my back. Yesterday she asked me if I would be sad if she traveled to visit her home state, which she hasn't been to ever since we moved. Travel is extremely expensive here. She didn't start the conversation about saving for our wedding or saving money so we can go together this year. She started by asking, "Would you be sad if I traveled back home by myself?" It made me think that even after all this time and all this patience and understanding from my side, she still thinks about herself first, about what she can do once she earns some money, not about finally being able to contribute to the household or pay back a part of my savings that I spent in the last few years. Am I just in denial here? Am I being gaslit? I honestly can't tell, since I often get the feeling that I pressure her too much. but it's been 4 years of me paying for everything. I don't want to spend my 30s living on a budget because she can't be bothered to start earning. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Just let her go visit her family. Maybe it's just an excuse so she could think straight away from you and get her priorities sorted. Helping your partner is great, but reminding them that you helped all the time is exhausting for both of you, and mostly for her. I wouldn't expect much of a change if I were you, but think of it as a chance for you to actually think about this. If both of you decide to carry on with the relationship, she must be 100% convinced that she has to change, not just tell you what you want to hear, then do whatever she wants behind your back. You too need to be a bit stricter with her in how you deal with those relationship problems. You have been dragging this for years. Comment 2. Yes, she is using you. But the real question is what to do about it. Are you willing to end the relationship if the situation doesn't change in, say, 3 months? And no traveling by her until she can pay for it herself. Or maybe she wants to go home to stay. A relationship should be a partnership, and that is not what you two have. You can't force someone to change their behavior. They need to want to change. You have been dealing with this situation for years. If this is not what you want for your life, you have one solution. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, where do I even start? After Linda asked about traveling alone, things just spiraled. She went on that trip, and guess what? She met someone from her past. An old flame, I guess. She came back acting strange, distant. I didn't think much of it at first, but then the bank statements came in. There were charges I didn't recognize, big ones. Turns out, she'd been meeting this guy, and he convinced her to invest in some sort of business venture. My money, of course. I was livid. We fought, and she threw in my face how I never really believed in her, how I was controlling. It stung because deep down I wondered if she was right. But then, the guy vanished. The business was a sham, and Linda was left with nothing but regret and a bruised ego. She was ashamed, kept apologizing, but something had shifted in me. I couldn't look at her the same way. I thought that was the worst of it, but no. The aftermath was her pulling away even more, spending more time on her phone, whispering when I walked into the room. I should have seen it coming. One day, she said she needed space, that she was suffocating. She moved out, said it was temporary. I found out later from a mutual friend that she'd been seeing someone else, someone she met through that sham of a business deal. It was like a punch to the gut. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep it together, focus on work, but it was hard. I felt betrayed, used. I started going to therapy alone, trying to make sense of it all. The therapist suggested that maybe Linda had been manipulating me all along, playing the victim to keep me hooked. It was a tough pill to swallow. And then, as if things couldn't get more complicated, she came back, crying, saying she'd made a mistake, that she missed me, us. She wanted to try again. And I, like an idiot, considered it. I missed her too, despite everything. But before I could make a decision, the other shoe dropped. She was pregnant. Not mine, obviously. She wanted to keep the baby, said it was a sign for her to start fresh. But where did that leave me? I was angry, hurt, but a part of me still cared for her. I told her I needed time to think, to figure out what I wanted. In the end, I decided I couldn't do it. I couldn't raise another man's child. Couldn't rebuild trust that was shattered so thoroughly. We split for good, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. She moved back to her home state, and I heard through the grapevine that she had the baby, a girl. I'm still picking up the pieces, trying to move on. I've started dating again. Nothing serious, but it's a start. I'm more cautious now, guarded. I can't shake the feeling that I was played for a fool, that I ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in the person I loved.